Hey everyone, dropping in today. It is 2020, my first sit down alone talking to the camera here in 2020, already January 6th. And at the beginning of the year, I started this new little thing. At the end of 2019, I put out a post on my social medias asking all the followers, hey, what is it in 2020 that I can do to help you guys in whatever manner that might be? So I got a variety of answers back, a lot of different things, some podcast ideas, a lot of people asking for some recipes and nutrition ideas posted to and nutrition tips posted to our social medias. A lot of people loved what we were doing already with the stretching and the mobility and the exercise tips that we post every week onto our socials. And then, there were some really specific ones which I loved because that's really what I was looking for. I had a guy that reached out and was like, hey, I really love when you post, a motivational post or some just real life sayings. That really helps me. He's like, I'd love if you send me some of those. And so that one really hit me. And so in the very beginning of 2020 on January 1st, that one just really hit me because I was going back over that social media post and marking down everything that everybody said, taking some notes, because I want to create some of that content for everybody and provide that value. So I was writing notes, and that one just kind of stopped, and I was like, okay, what can I do to do this? And we already do, some of our posts. We already share, a lot of my personal thoughts, my more in-depth thoughts like that. I post to my Twitter because it's just my quick little outlet where I just like. A random thought goes through my head. I'm trying to capture it instead of just like making notes in my notes pages on my phone. I'm trying to just like document that onto Twitter. So I'm trying to get better at that. I'm not the best at it yet, but it's coming around. And so in the past, I was just taking those Twitter screenshots and like sharing them. And so I'm still going to do that, but I really wanted to just make more of these like graphics with all these photos that we have from over the years. And so I decided to cover that realm of the request, I really wanted to do this daily post that had something that comes across my mind in it, or that I've said in a previous post, or that I've said on one of our shows on Running on TV or during a workout. So here we are on day 5. Today's going to be day 6 posted, and how I do this is I have this graphic and I put day 001, day 002. So by the end of the year, it'll say day 365. We're going to do one of these every single day and post it to our socials. But one of them that really just like hit me, it was from an old Twitter post. And I really like it because it's true. All these hopefully are true. They might not be true to you right at the moment, but at some point, one of these might hit you where it needs to be. And that's the point, is that they're all necessarily aren't going to touch you. Not every single one of them is going to touch you, but one of them might be something that you need to hear and need to see at that right time frame for you. So this was a Twitter post from November 15th of 2019. It's what's practical to you may not be for others. Don't expect approval from everyone. Practicality is specific to your needs. And so I took that and I ripped a little bit of it and put it onto a new post here last night that was on our January 5th post. And so that post was, what's practical to you may not be for others. Practicality is specific to your needs. So I shortened it up a little bit. And then the caption on the social is, your journey isn't like any others. What works for you will seem ridiculous to others. Don't let judgment slow you down. And I'm not just talking about judgment from others, rather than just judging yourself. And so I just wanted to jump on and talk about that a little bit, really short on the podcast today, because isn't that the truth? And I think that is the truth for so many of us, that when we're on our journeys, on our personal journeys, we sometimes forget that, hey, ours is specific to ourselves. What I'm doing isn't going to be like anybody else, right? We're special in our own ways. And so many times, we're thinking about that judgment from our friends or from our family, from our parents, from our spouse, from our brothers and sisters, and some of our best friends, people that we go to school with, whatever it may be. And that we're afraid to make that move because we're worried about what other people will say. We're worried to take that step because we're scared of the backlash of what other people might say, when really that step forward is the most practical thing for you to do. I remember back in our early days of Sioux Falls when we moved here back in 2011, me and Amy worked our butts off 7 days a week to buy our first house. And we bought that house in 2013. And then we were in that house for a couple years, and we decided, hey, like, we want to sell our house and move back into like a townhome and just save money and be able to have a little bit extra freedom, go travel if we want to travel. And we were, we had our first kid at the time. We had Eva at the time. She was 1 year old when we sold our house and moved into this townhome. And I remember, some people being like, dude, you guys are young. You've already bought a house. Why the heck would you sell it and go backwards into a townhome? And I just remember thinking, like, they have no idea what our situation is and what our goals are and how practical it was for us to sell our house, make a little money, use that money to pay down on other debt, our student loans, things like that, and then be able to save money and have less responsibility in this townhome, be able to travel and do some of these things that were on our list that we wanted to do. And then later on, search for a house again if we wanted to. And so a little bit of an example on how the outside, a lot of our friends or people looking in were like, what are these guys doing? But for us, it was very practical. Same thing goes for any moves you might make in your career or in your profession, whether that be, for me, I'm an entrepreneur, so a lot of the moves I make, I know people don't understand, and that's okay. And then a lot of moves I do make, like my dad's an entrepreneur too, so when I talk to him about ideas, he's always like, totally gets it. But I have some other people in my family that are the exact opposite and think that risks I take are absolutely ridiculous and they would never make that move. So just keep that in mind as you're on your own personal journey, that you're going to have those times that people aren't going to understand, and that remember that you don't need everyone's approval, because not everybody's going to understand what's practical for you. And so that leads us right into the end point, is that when you're worried about other people's judgment, when you're sitting there and you're worried about what people are thinking of you, we're also have those times where we're judging ourselves, that if I do take this risk and it fails, what are people going to think of me? You're judging yourself in that sense, and you have to take a step out and not let that slow you down, that judgment of yourself if you do fail, how you're going to feel, how other people are going to perceive you, and just go for it. Just stop worrying about it and stop being so hard on yourself. Life is really short. When I really started taking Run to Gun, when I took Run to Gun full time about 7 months ago, I was 30 years old, and 30, just had turned 31, and I was going to turn 31. And I really started thinking, I'm like, I've been grinding at my own business since I was 22, so like 8 years. I'm like, it's time to take it and go full time. And you know what? I'm like, if I fail, I guess I wasn't good enough. And if I spend the next 8 years at it and I fail and I'm 38 and I spent 16 years on it, I'm like, I guess I wasn't good enough. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm only 38. Because at first, the judgment of yourself wants to be like, oh, I wasted 16 years on this. But it's definitely not a waste for me. It's something that I'm pursuing and I'm learning every single day. All these different things about business, about marketing, about relationships. And if I'm 38 and I fail, I'm like, oh, dude, I'm only 38. I had given a business 16 years and I'm only 38. I can start completely all over on something else if I need to, and I'm only 38. And then I'm like, I had to think about those first 5 years and how slow they were in the sense of just learning and making progress back in, 2013, 14, 15, 16, and how slow they were. And I'm like, man, the progress when I start if I had to start something new, I have so much more experience and knowledge that things would probably just move faster. And I'm only 38. And so that just goes down to learning not to judge yourself so harshly in what you're doing, and just enjoying that process and loving the journey of it, and just remembering and solidifying that, hey, what is practical to you in your situation may not be practical for others, and that worrying about their approval is purely just a waste of time. You do not need approval from everybody on your journey. At the end of the day, if you make it work, you're going to get their approval anyway, if that's what you're worried about. But that's a whole nother conversation. So thanks for jumping on today's podcast, everybody. I really appreciate it, and enjoy January 6th, 2020. See you later.